My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us on The Marketplace. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is expected to present the mid-year review of the 2022 budget estimates next Wednesday, July 13. This is the date that the Ministry of Finance has proposed, subject to Parliament's approval. But will there be a supplementary budget on the table? Here's George Rafe with the latest.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is going to Parliament for this exercise because the country's Financial Administration Act requires that he updates Parliament on the macroeconomic situation not less than 31st July each financial year, which has been christened the Mid-Year Fiscal Policy Review. The minister is expected to tell Parliament how we've performed for the first 6 months of this year, especially when it comes to our revenue situation, as the numbers for the first quarter of this year showed that things were not looking that good. There were initial reports that the government may consider a supplementary budget, but our checks indicate that there is nothing on the table for now. The mid-year review would also update Parliament on the expenditure targets, inflation rate, and the growth rate numbers, and whether current developments on the international market should force the minister to adjust the end-of-year projections. Joy Business understands that the proposed program with the IMF will not influence this mid-year review, but rather the 2023 budget that will be presented to Parliament in November this year. A cabinet meeting today may give us some clear understanding as to whether the Finance Minister may outline some new policy measures before the end of this year in the mid-year review that will be presented to Parliament.
Well, speak about the 2022 budget. The minority in Parliament are vowing to resist government's attempt to have Parliament approve a $1 billion syndicated loan currently before the House. We understand that money is needed to fund the budget, and government is seeking $750 million from the Afro-Exim Bank and $250 million from a syndication of banks to finance the budget. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante joins us with more on this. So why is the minority against the loan, Kweku?
So, Daryl, you will recall that 2 weeks ago, former President John Dramani Mahama spoke, alleged the minority side in Parliament to vote against these two agreements, which come together to about $1 billion. We know that it was such a big issue when the Finance Minister failed to appear before Parliament to answer questions regarding COVID-19 expenditure. Now, the loan agreement is going through the Finance Committee. The information we are picking from the committee members, especially the minority MPs, is that they haven't met on it so far. But they are saying that the deal and the terms that I need are completely bad. They do not favor the country. They allege, for instance, that the insurance for the $250 million agreement alone is $50 million. And if you are going to take $250 million loan and you are paying $50 million as insurance alone, then it's not a good deal. You're going to pay other charges which come up together to eat up the entire loan agreement. And so they are saying that this is not a good deal. When you go to the $750 million component also, they allege that in terms of the insurance and other premiums that will be paid are similar in such numbers. And so they say it's not a good deal for government to take. They're also saying that this is the time that government is seeking IMF bailout, and it's not the time to compound the current debt stock of the country. We know that there have been concerns that because of the deal we have currently, in terms of our debt to GDP ratio, we may not be so successful in getting a good deal with the IMF. What the minority are saying is that hold on with this loan agreement, let the IMF assess your economy, and then after that, the country can come together and make a decision in terms of whether or not we want to take on more loans. And so they are using these two cases as basis to say that it is not such a good deal. However, if you look at the order paper that has been advertised for tomorrow, the provisional order paper, it seems as though the Finance Ministry is pushing for this loan agreement to be passed very early. The order paper advertised say that the committee will be looking at it tomorrow, and then they will make a report to the House tomorrow as well. Tomorrow is Friday. And usually on Fridays, the House rises very early. And so the minority are warning that they are not going to countenance any ploy by the majority side to push this through by a certificate of urgency or to make this an emergency. They say this is a deal that will compound the debt situation of the country. They want more attention to be taken. They want more time to be taken to go through the agreement and all the answers they demand from the Finance Ministry before a decision will be taken. But bottom line is they are vowing to fight this every step of the way because they do not think it augurs well for the country's debt positioning.
Okay, so the minority concerned about debt, the government is in need of that money and that wants to push this through. How exactly does the minority hope to stall the process of seeking approval?
Indeed, I've been asking Georgina Paul, who has been making these allegations. You don't have the numbers. It used to be 137 at both sides where the deputy speaker caucusing with the majority. But now the NDC is now short with one MP, that is Joe Kwesi, who has been injuncted from holding himself out as an MP. So they have 136. If it comes to show the majority will use their numbers to approve it, what are they going to do? They say they are keeping their cards to their chest now, but they have an effective strategy in place to push against the approval of this law.
Okay, and just before you go, some news that just came through just as we're going on air, a court of appeal declaring that the decision of the Bank of Ghana to revoke the license of UniCredit was an unlawful exercise?
Yeah, so the information that we are picking is that the court has now ruled that the Bank of Ghana need to give back UniCredit their license. So we need to see the full ruling from the court to be able to understand exactly why the court arrived at that decision. But it's been reverberating in Parliament here. MPs are chatting about this information that have come in. We know it became a big political issue. Before he's an NDC member, there are those who claim that government simply went after his asset because of his political ideology. But in the coming days, in the coming hours, when we see the full, that kind of ruling that came from the court will be fully advised in terms of how the court arrived at that decision and what the full modalities of the judgment is. So it is news that is just coming, it is developing. Parliament MPs are talking about it, and by the close of the day, we'll probably hear some statement from the minority who had insisted that the banking sector cleanup was just a ploy by the Bank of Ghana Governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, and Finance Minister Ken Foriata to take out banks that were competing with data. But these are allegations that they've not been providing some evidence to, but we are aware that these are evidence that they've made quite strongly.
Okay, thank you so much, Kweku Asante there. He is parliamentary correspondent, updating us on two issues. The fact that the minority wants to stall the process of seeking approval for a $1 billion syndicated loan. Also, we're hearing that a court of appeal has declared that the Bank of Ghana's decision to revoke the license of UniCredit was unlawful. Let's bring in Associate Professor of Finance at Andrews University in the U.S., William Syndicate Loan, to talk a bit more about our lead story for today, which has to do with the mid-year budget review. But before we talk about that, I just want your thoughts on what we are seeing unfold in Parliament today, where the minority says we are not going to approve the $1 billion syndicated loan the government is seeking. We know the government needs money. The minority is worried about debt. Your thoughts?
Good afternoon, Daryl. I think that minority should understand that where we have gotten to is very, very critical for us as a country. They already have seen the first quarter numbers, and which is indicating that our revenue that we generated couldn't even pay our interest payments. And then also, it's really affecting our balance of payments. So if you look at the purpose for this $1 billion syndication loan, of this is going to support our balance of payment, and then 750 will be supporting our budgets. If they don't give government approval on this particular loan, the country is going to really suffer.
But don't they have the point when they talk about our debt portfolio going up?
I mean, we have already gotten to the brim, but we are not getting in any additional revenue to come in. And we need the money now and not to delay. A lot of payments are due at the central bank in July and August. The impact will be greater than denying government the $1 billion loan request. Indeed, the talk with IMF, which will crystallize somewhere in 2023, this $1 billion is, and also to help us to control the exchange, our currency devaluation until that money comes in. So it is very, very critical. Sometimes it's political, but they must also think of the general impact on Ghanaians. Well, it is true that our debt is bad, but we will need to get some money from somewhere else to still survive as a country. So they have to consider to allow this loan to pass so that government should get, unless probably as they have raised issues about the terms, they may have to ask government to go back and renegotiate on the terms like the insurance part and any if the interest charge on that loan is too high, they may also have to go back and do that discussion. I'm sure government by now, after picking the signals, will be doing that and maybe change the terms and resubmit something else.
We'll see how that unfolds. We are told it's on the order paper for tomorrow. Let's turn to the media review. We know an IMF deal may be finalized in months, but how would that influence or impact government's presentation of a mid-year budget?
So with the mid-year budget, what we are expecting government to do is that government will have to come out with a supplementary budget. Ghana, we operate what we call a current budget. That is a situational budget. So looking at what is currently happening in the country, the finance minister will have to change government policy. Already he has given the indication of reduction of expenditure by 20%. This is the time for government to show that in a supplementary budget. Government should have to tell us which of the ministries, departments, agencies, district assemblies that are going to suffer that 20% cut. Government will also, in the supplementary budget, will have to show to us how they are going to increase revenue collection. One key element that I'm paying attention to is how much money we have been able to accrue from the property tax. You know, in the beginning of the year, it was one of the new taxes government rolled out that between the revenue authorities and the district assemblies, they will be collaborating to make sure that this will help to increase our revenue collections. I'm also expecting government, as they have already done a lot of U-turn by going to IMF, to do some U-turn and also go back to some taxes they reduced or abolished in 2017, which we have to give indication of raising taxes or revenue. One of them will be the VAT real estate taxes. Can it go up to 3% to bring in money? On some taxes on financial services, can government be looking at it again and saying that if it was 17.5 then, which was abolished, can we bring it back on say 5% or 12.5% on some financial services? Can government also be looking at one important tax, which is government reduce the withholding tax on gold export? And there are a lot of galamsey activities and mining activities going on. Can government decide to tap into this area to also to increase the revenue? So the supplementary budget I'm expecting from government will have to be a budget that shows that we are going to make sure that we are bringing in revenue, our current or consumption expenditures.
All right. I want us to switch to the IMF because of a tweet I saw this morning, which I found very interesting. We understand that the team is engaging the finance ministry at this point for some economic data, but a tweet from Thomas Swank. He is a professor of finance at the Johns Hopkins University. We are going to pull up that tweet for you and show you on the screen. But it reads that President Akufo-Addo passes the begging bowl to the IMF. Spoiler alert, if Ghana's past 17 IMF programs, a new program, like Ghana's past 17 IMF programs, a new program won't work. Today, I measure Ghana's inflation at 47% by end of year. And so two things I wanted your thoughts on. The fact that he thinks that this IMF program won't work like the past. And he talks about inflation reaching 47% by the end of the year. I know you have projected around 40%. Yeah. Your thoughts?
I projected that is 40% by August. which was based on the weakening in our currency. And because I noticed that our cedi was really devaluing at the time. So what Thomas is also doing is that we are using some models that we are using to do the projections. He is projecting to December. I projected up to August, 40% by August, and he is going to December 47%. Indeed, we may have to do a major structural change in our economy. That is why I think Thomas is saying that going to IMF will not turn our fortunes around. We all believe that assessing now is money or cash to help us to stabilize our weakening currency when we get. What he's saying will be true, that if we don't try to find a structural change in our economy by shifting from a service industry to either production or manufacturing industry or agricultural country, we may go back to IMF just after the program. So it is very important that within the 36 months that government is seeking for this fund, we do a major structural change. One district, one factory project must be really enhanced so that it will be able to cause a major change in our economy.
We'll leave it here. Thank you so much for your thoughts there, Professor Williams Pippa, Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University. Thanks for your time.